Stop spending your quarters. You could be throwing away a fortune. Welcome to Legacy Coins USA. Today we're looking at the top rare quarters you must check for, including the 1965, 66, 67, and 73 issues. We're talking about silver errors, double dies, and the mint proofs that are worth way more than 25 cents. If you want to know what to look for and how to spot it, you're in the right place. Let's get into the hunt. Let's get started. The 1965 Washington quarter stands as one of the most significant and transformative coins in the history of the United States Mint. It marked the definitive end of the silver era for circulating quarters, which had been composed of 90% silver since the series began in 1932. Due to a worldwide shortage of silver and a massive increase in the industrial demand for the metal, the U.S. government passed the Coinage Act of 1965. This legislation empowered the mint to transition to a clad composition, consisting of a pure copper core sandwiched between layers of 75% copper and 25% nickel. Consequently, the 1965 quarter was the very first of its kind to lack any silver content, changing the physical weight, sound, and appearance of American pocket change forever. A unique characteristic of the 1965 quarter is the total absence of a mint mark. During this period, from 1965 to 1967, the U.S. Mint deliberately removed mint marks from all denominations to discourage coin collectors and speculators from hoarding new issues. The government believed that collectors were contributing to a national coin shortage by plucking specific mintages out of circulation. Therefore, whether a 1965 quarter was struck in Philadelphia, Denver, or San Francisco, they all look identical, bearing no letter on the reverse or obverse. This silent production era makes it impossible for modern numismatists to determine the exact origin of a standard 1965 quarter. While the vast majority of the 1.8 billion quarters minted in 1965 are common, there is a legendary Holy Grail era that collectors hunt for, the 1965 silver transitional era. During the switch from silver to clad planchets, a few leftover 90% silver blanks from 1964 were accidentally fed into the presses and struck with the 1965 date. These coins are extremely rare and highly valuable, often selling for thousands of dollars at major auctions. Identifying one requires a precise scale. A standard clad quarter weighs 5.67 grams, whereas the rare silver era weighs approximately 6.25 grams. Additionally, a silver era will lack the distinct copper stripe usually visible on the edge of modern quarters. Beyond the silver transitional era, several other rare minting mistakes make certain 1965 quarters worth significantly more than their 25-cent face value. One of the most famous is the double die obverse DDO era. On these rare specimens, doubling is clearly visible on the inscriptions Liberty and In God We Trust. Another sought-after anomaly is the struck on a dime planchet era, where a quarter design was mistakenly stamped onto a smaller, thinner silver or clad dime blank. These errors occurred due to the high-pressure environment at the mint, as they worked 24/7 to replace the nation's silver supply with the new clad coinage. The historical context of 1965 is also vital for any educational video. President Lyndon B. Johnson signed the Coinage Act into law on July 23, 1965, warning the public that silver was becoming too scarce to be used as money. He famously stated that the new coins would look and perform exactly like the old ones in vending machines, but they would not be hoarded because they lacked intrinsic bullion value. This move successfully stabilized the American economy and allowed the U.S. Mint to produce coins at a much lower cost. The 1965 quarter is effectively the grandfather of the modern American coinage system we use today. For those interested in the highest levels of coin grading, condition rarity plays a massive role in the value of a 1965 quarter, because these coins were produced in such massive quantities and used heavily in daily commerce. Finding one in pristine, uncirculated condition is surprisingly difficult. Most 1965 quarters found in change today are circulated and worth only 25 cents. However, specimens that have been professionally graded as Mint State 67, MS 67, or higher by services like PCGS or NGC, can command prices ranging from $400 to over $5,000. The current record for a regular 1965 clad quarter in a nearly perfect grade stands at several $1,000s. Another rare variation to look for is the Special Mint Set SMS quarter. Since the Mint did not produce official proof sets between 1965 and 1967, they instead released special mint sets. The quarters in these sets were struck with higher pressure on polished dies, giving them a much sharper detail and a satin-like finish compared to standard business strikes. While SMS quarters are generally common within their original packaging, cameo or deep cameo versions, where the portrait of Washington appears frosted against a mirror-like background, are extremely rare and highly prized by elite collectors. In summary, while the 1965 quarter is often overlooked as a common coin, it carries a rich history of economic crisis, technological transition, and rare manufacturing blunders. Whether you are looking for the heavy silver transitional era, the double die varieties, or a high-grade specimen, this coin remains a fascinating subject for any numismatic enthusiast. For your YouTube audience, the key takeaway is to always check the weight and the edge of any 1965 quarter. You might just be holding a piece of history that is worth a small fortune. If you found this coin history helpful, please subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon for more rare coin discoveries. Don't forget to like the video and share your thoughts in the comments below. Next coin. The 1966 Washington quarter represents the second official year of the United States Mint's transition into the clad era, a pivotal moment when precious silver was permanently removed from circulating currency. Following the massive overhaul of the coinage system in 1965, the 1966 production run was part of a relentless effort by the Treasury to flood the market with copper-nickel coins to prevent a national commerce collapse. Because the public was still hoarding old silver quarters, the Mint worked overtime, striking over 821 million quarters dated 1966. This specific year is often studied by historians as the stabilization year, where the new composition of a pure copper core bonded to outer layers of copper-nickel became the undisputed standard for American trade. One of the most fascinating aspects of the 1966 quarter is the strategic absence of any mint mark on its surface. During this mid-60s period, the director of the Mint, Eva Adams, decided to eliminate the identifying D for Denver or S for San Francisco to discourage coin collecting and speculation. This means that even though millions of these coins were minted across different facilities, they all appear identical. This lack of a mint mark often confuses modern collectors who are used to seeing a letter behind Washington's hair. For a YouTuber or researcher, this silent era of 1965 to 1967 is a goldmine for storytelling, as it highlights a time when the US government was essentially at war with coin collectors to keep money in circulation. In terms of rare eras, the 1966 quarter is famous for the triple die obverse and various doubling anomalies that occurred due to the immense pressure put on the minting equipment. Unlike common doubling, a true 1966 double die or triple die is a manufacturing defect where the hub strikes the die multiple times at slightly different angles. Collectors look specifically at the words "In God We Trust" and the date 1966 for thick, distorted lettering or clear, split serifs. These errors are incredibly difficult to find in the wild because most have been worn down by decades of use, making a crisp, high-detail error coin worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars to the right buyer. Another legendary rarity associated with 1966 is the transitional silver era. While the Mint was supposed to be using only clad planchets, a tiny handful of 90% silver blanks intended for 1964 coinage occasionally found their way into the 1966 production bins. If you find a 1966 quarter that looks exceptionally shiny, lacks the brown copper line on the edge, and weighs exactly 6.25 grams on a digital scale, you may have discovered one of the most valuable coins in American history. These silver transitional errors are so rare that they rarely appear at auction, and when they do, they cause a frenzy among elite numismatists. Special mint sets, SMS, produced in 1966, offer a completely different level of quality compared to the coins found in everyday pocket change. Since the mint had suspended regular proof sets to save time during the coin shortage, they created these SMS coins as a middle ground for collectors. The 1966 SMS quarters were struck once with high-tonnage presses, resulting in a satin finish that is much smoother and more reflective than a standard strike. Rare cameo versions of these SMS coins, where George Washington's portrait looks like a white frosted cameo against a dark background, are the crown jewels of 1966 coinage and can fetch massive premiums in professional grading circles. A detail often missed by casual observers is the clad layer error, which is particularly prevalent in the 1966 series. Due to the newness of the cladding technology, the bonding process sometimes failed, leading to coins that are missing an obverse or reverse clad layer. These coins appear bright red or copper-colored on one side while looking normal on the other. Because 1966 was such a high-production year, the quality control was sometimes stretched thin, leading to these dramatic-looking bimetallic errors that are highly sought after by error-only collectors who appreciate the technical failures of the U.S. Mint. Condition rarity is the most significant factor for the 1966 quarters market value today. Because these coins were intended for heavy use in vending machines and laundromats, the vast majority are heavily scratched and worn. Finding a 1966 quarter in gem-uncirculated condition, specifically grades like MS-67 or MS-68, is a Herculean task. A standard 1966 quarter might only be worth its 25-cent face value, but a specimen that has been preserved in a bankroll for 50 years and shows zero scratches can sell for upwards of $3,000. For your viewers, emphasizing the luster and the strike sharpness is key to explaining why some 1966 quarters are treasures while others are just change. Finally, the 1966 quarter serves as a time capsule for the mid-1960s American economy. It represents the successful transition of the world's most powerful currency into a fiat-based system where the value of the metal inside the coin no longer dictated its worth. Every 1966 quarter carries the legacy of John Flanagan's original 1932 design, but with a modern, industrial twist. Whether it is a common circulation strike or a rare, deep cameo, SMS specimen, this coin is a testament to American resilience and engineering during a period of massive financial change. Next coin. The 1967 Washington quarter marks a fascinating conclusion to a unique three-year experiment in the history of American numismatics. During the mid-1960s, the United States was in the midst of a massive coin shortage, and the 1967 issue was the final year that the U.S. Mint operated under the emergency mandate of the Coinage Act of 1965. This year is particularly significant because the Mint was pushing its equipment to the absolute limit, producing over 1.5 billion quarters to satisfy the needs of a growing economy. For collectors and historians, the 1967 quarter represents the peak of the clad revolution, where the transition from silver to copper-nickel was finally completed and accepted by the American public. A defining characteristic of the 1967 quarter is its lack of a mint mark, a trait it shares with the two preceding years. However, 1967 is special because it was the last time in history that all three major mints, Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, produced circulating coinage that looked exactly the same. By removing the mint marks, the government successfully neutralized the secondary market of the time, making it impossible for collectors to hoard specific, low-mintage mints. This created a massive, uniform pool of currency that stabilized the economy, but it also created a mystery for modern hunters who try to guess a coin's origin based on subtle die characteristics and striking patterns unique to each facility. In the world of high-value errors, the 1967 quarter is famous for the double die reverse and double die obverse varieties. Because the dies were being used far past their expected lifespan to meet production quotas, many developed significant wear and doubling. On the 1967 specimens, Collectors look for a distinct thickening or shelf-like appearance in the letters of Liberty or on the eagle's feathers on the reverse. While millions of these coins were made, finding one with a clear, crisp double die in high grade is like finding a needle in a haystack, and these specimens can command prices that far exceed their original 25-cent value. One of the most elusive and rare versions of the 1967 quarter is the silver transitional era. Even though 1967 was 3 years removed from the end of silver production, a few stray 90% silver planchets were still occasionally caught in the machinery or mixed into bins of the newer clad blanks. These coins are essentially wrong metal errors. If a 1967 quarter weighs 6.25 grams instead of the standard 5.67 grams, it is a life-changing find. These errors are so rare that only a handful are known to exist, making them a top-tier prize for professional coin hunters who scan thousands of coins looking for that one silver edge. The 1967 Special Mint Set SMS quarters are arguably the most beautiful coins of the entire 1960s clad era. Because the Mint did not produce traditional proof sets this year, they put extra effort into the SMS production. The 1967 SMS quarters often exhibit a much higher quality strike than the 1965 or 1966 versions. In fact, the 1967 SMS sets are known for having the highest frequency of deep cameo results, where the contrast between the polished fields and the frosted portrait of Washington is striking. A 1967 SMS quarter that achieves a deep cameo, DCAM, grade from a professional service can sell for thousands of dollars because of its intense visual appeal. Beyond the standard errors, the 1967 series is known for dramatic clip errors and off-center strikes. Because the Mint was operating at such a high velocity, the sheet feeding mechanisms often slipped, leading to quarters that are missing a crescent-shaped piece or were struck only halfway onto the metal blank. These incomplete coins are highly prized by error collectors because they represent the raw, industrial chaos of the 1967 production year. Unlike common wear and tear, these are factory-made defects that prove the intense pressure the U.S. Mint was under to produce enough change for the nation. Condition rarity is an extreme factor for the 1967 quarter due to its massive circulation. Most 1967 quarters you find today are heavily worn, flat in detail, and dark in color. However, a mint state 1967 quarter, one that was tucked away in a bank bag and never touched by human hands, is a different story entirely. A 1967 quarter in MS-68 condition is nearly impossible to find because the clad layers were often prone to bag marks and scuffs during transport. Because of this scarcity in high grades, a flawless 1967 quarter is actually rarer and often more expensive than many silver quarters from the 1950s. Another rare technical anomaly to watch for is the struck-through error. This happens when a foreign object, like a piece of grease, a thread, or a metal shaving, gets between the die and the coin blank during the strike. This leaves a permanent indentation or a ghosted image on the quarter's surface. On a 1967 quarter, a grease strike can make part of the date or the word Liberty disappear entirely. While some beginners mistake this for wear, experienced numismatists recognize it as a valuable mint error that occurred at the moment of the coin's birth in the Philadelphia or Denver presses. Ultimately, the 1967 Washington quarter is the bridge between the experimental mid-60s and the return to normalcy in 1968, when mint marks finally reappeared. It is a symbol of a time when the American monetary system was being rebuilt from the ground up. Whether you are searching for the mirror-like finish of an SMS coin, the heavy weight of a silver transitional era, or the crisp lines of a high-grade uncirculated specimen, the 1967 quarter remains one of the most interesting and accessible pieces of history for any collector. It tells the story of a nation moving forward into a new age of metal and commerce. Next coin. The 1973 Washington quarter represents a significant era of maturity for the United States Mint's clad coinage system. By this time, The emergency period of the mid-1960s had passed, and the mint had successfully transitioned away from silver. The 1973 issue is particularly notable for collectors because it showcases the return of high-volume production with clearly defined mint marks, as the government had officially ended the ban on identifying letters a few years prior. This year serves as a benchmark for the modern American quarter, featuring the classic eagle reverse design by John Flanagan just a few years before it would be replaced by the iconic 1776-1976 bicentennial drummer boy design. A key historical detail of the 1973 quarter is the distribution of its production across the three main U.S. mint facilities. The Philadelphia Mint produced over 346 million coins with no mint mark, while the Denver Mint struck approximately 232 million coins bearing the D mark. For YouTube viewers, it is essential to highlight that 1973 was also a major year for the San Francisco Mint, which exclusively handled the production of nearly 2.8 million proof coins marked with an S. This clear separation of business strikes for circulation and high-quality proofs for collectors makes the 1973 series a favorite for those attempting to complete a date and mint mark set of Washington quarters. In terms of rare, holy grail errors, the 1973 S-proof quarter holds one of the most incredible secrets in modern numismatics. The 1973 S struck on a penny planchet. This extraordinary error occurred when a copper-bronze blank intended for a Lincoln cent was accidentally fed into the proof quarter presses at San Francisco. The result is a quarter design squeezed onto a much smaller, reddish-brown copper disc. Because proof coins are manually inspected, very few of these escaped the mint. One such specimen recently sold for nearly $4,000, making it a legendary mistake that demonstrates the high stakes of mint quality control during the early 1970s. Another highly sought-after variety for the 1973 series is the double die obverse DDO. While not as famous as some 1960s varieties, the 1973 doubling is most noticeable on the words "In God We Trust" and the L and I of Liberty. This doubling was caused by a misalignment during the creation of the working die itself. Collectors use high-powered loupes or digital microscopes to find these hidden treasures in common pocket change. Because many people assume 1970s quarters are just worth 25 cents, these doubled dies often sit unnoticed in jars of change, waiting for a sharp-eyed collector to claim a prize worth hundreds of dollars. The filled D mint mark error is a specific anomaly that frequently appears on the 1973 D quarters from Denver. This occurs when the center of the D mint mark on the die becomes clogged with grease or metal debris, resulting in a coin where the mint mark looks like a solid blob rather than a clear letter. While some minor filled D coins carry only a small premium, a full blob version in uncirculated condition is a unique curiosity that appeals to error enthusiasts. It provides a great visual for a YouTube video to show the difference between a standard strike and a greasy strike from the high-speed Denver presses. The 1973 S-proof coins are also distinguished by the Deep Cameo DCAM designation. In 1973, the mint was perfecting the chemical etching process that created the frosted look on Washington's portrait. A 1973 S-quarter that achieves a perfect proof 70 Deep Cameo grade is exceptionally rare. In fact, some of these perfect specimens have sold at auction for over $6,000. For your audience, explaining the cameo effect, where the background is like a black mirror and the portrait is like white snow, is a powerful way to illustrate why some 1973 quarters are worth thousands, while others are only worth face value. Condition rarity is the primary driver of value for the standard 1973 Philadelphia and Denver issues. Because 1973 was a year of heavy economic activity, most of these quarters were used until they were smooth. Finding a 1973 quarter in mint state 67 or higher is a major challenge for professional graders. The clad surfaces of this era were prone to planchet chatter and scuffs. Therefore, a 1973 quarter that has survived with its original mint luster and 0 scratches, is a high-value item that can sell for $500 to $1,500, depending on the exact grade and eye appeal. Collectors also keep a close watch for off-center strikes and struck-through errors on 1973 quarters. During the high-velocity minting process of the early 70s, it wasn't uncommon for a coin blank planchet to be slightly out of position. A 1973 quarter that is 10% to 25% off-center is a dramatic visual error that is highly liquid in the collector market. Additionally, struck-through grease errors can cause parts of the eagle's wings or Washington's hair to appear faded or missing, creating a unique phantom look that many error collectors find irresistible. In summary, the 1973 Washington quarter is a multifaceted coin that offers something for every type of collector. From the common circulating D and P coins to the ultra-rare S-proof errors on copper planchets, it is a year filled with hidden value. For a YouTube audience, the 1973 quarter is a reminder that value isn't just about the age of the coin, but the story behind its production and the rare mistakes made along the way. By checking the weight, looking for doubling, and inspecting the mint mark, anyone might find a piece of the 1973 series that is worth much more than just 25 cents. If you found this coin history helpful, please subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon for more rare coin discoveries. Don't forget to like the video and share your thoughts in the comments below.